Welcome back to the Weathered Athlete Podcast. Oh, it feels like forever since I've been in the studio, and honestly it has been. Over the past year, I have felt a strong calling to restart this podcast, but life has had other plans. To those of you who were guests or listeners in the first 31 episodes, I am incredibly grateful. Those conversations left me inspired. But sometimes life shifts our priorities. After the last episode on September 20th, 2021, I found myself in a whirlwind of personal experiences, ones that forced me to step back, reassess, and pay attention to a different kind of endurance athlete. See, what comes to mind when you hear the word endurance? Most people picture long hours of training, pushing limits, and crossing finish lines. They think of grit, resilience, and strength. I did too. See, as an athlete, I thought I knew endurance. I've completed an Ironman. I've run 116 miles in a weekend. I've pushed my body to extremes. And as a physical therapist for over 3 decades, I thought I understood caregiving. But then my worlds collided. I became a family caregiver, and it tested me in ways no race ever had. Over a 3-year period, I took extended family leave 4 times to care for loved ones facing unexpected health crises. Those experiences didn't just challenge me, it changed me. It led me to a career shift as a wellness life coach and set me on a mission to honor and support the true ultra-endurance athletes, the caregivers. See, estimates are that 1 in 5 of you listening is caring for a loved one with chronic or disabling health issues. You're running a race you never signed up for. And there's no set course, there's no clear finish line, and there's no medals waiting for you at the end. That's why this podcast is shifting. It's here to honor you, to support you, to help you navigate a race that doesn't come with a guidebook. Because the endurance required for caregiving is different. It's not just about shaving seconds off your time or conquering the next challenge. It's about showing up every single day in the face of uncertainty. Unlike triathlon, where the rules are clear and the finish line is known, caregiving is unpredictable. The support crew often struggles to define their roles. There's no race director handing out a course map. As I reflected on my purpose and the future of the Weathered Athlete Podcast, it became clear. It was time to rebrand, to honor those who rarely seek recognition. The ones who run the longest miles in the dark without applause. But even with that clarity, I hesitated. I stared at the podcast relaunch form, details filled in, but I couldn't bring myself to hit submit. And then, as fate would have it, something, or rather someone, nudged me forward. I received an email from a potential guest, someone who had stumbled upon the Weathered Athlete Podcast and wanted to share a story. As I researched him, I knew instantly he was a godsend. Enter Dr. Akil Taher, a physician, heart disease survivor, and endurance athlete who defied medical expectations and transformed his life. At age 62, just 1 year after undergoing heart bypass surgery, he ran his first half marathon. That achievement propelled him towards even greater challenges, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, running marathons, completing triathlons, and cycling 100 miles. Today we'll explore Akil's incredible journey, how his upbringing in India shaped him, the role caregiving has played in his life, and the valuable lessons we can all take from his story. I'm honored to share this conversation with you. Let's get started. Akil, I want to thank you for joining me today. When you reached out to me, it's almost 3 months ago now, I was in the middle of a caregiving storm myself as I was helping my parents. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, and thank you for having me, Pete. And I was doing some lecture on active aging. And that is where I came across your name somewhere. And I said, wait a minute, this person is doing something that is really good. Not a lot of people talk about this. And I think it should be spread more for people to understand. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I appreciate it. So yeah, why don't you fill in the audience about your background a little bit?
Well, I am a practicing physician who lives in Atlanta, Georgia. I have 2 children. One is attorney, and the other one is following my footsteps, is a physician. my wife dabbles into stocks and whatnot. So he's the brain behind the family. I am the brawn in the family. In any case, I started my young days in early childhood was in a city called Mumbai, which was known as Bombay at that time. It was not affected by Western influence, did not have a thriving economy like the way it has now. And I was from sort of a lower middle class family. So in a way, it was great because I did not eat processed foods of meat, eggs, and dairy because we couldn't afford it. So we grew up, I remember, on whole grains and a vegetable a day. That was all. Again, I was from a joint family, unlike over here in the States, where your parents, uncle, the whole cousins and everybody are living together. To me, in a way, everybody was responsible for everybody else. So I did not feel like we rarely saw our parents. There was always an elder to look after, or we did certain things as young kids because we were each given a task to do the morning bazaaring, go to the bazaar. We used to have a little cloth bag that used to go and do the bazaar, and we didn't have any calculators, so we had to really get the numbers here. If we made one penny mistake or one paisa, as we called it, oh, we would have a break. So you would come home, and it was just a natural thing for us to go to the neighbor, knock on the door. There was no etiquettes of that sort that you called beforehand. Just knock at the neighbor. You said, do you need anything for? And she would say, yeah, remember to get me some tomatoes if you can. So that in school, I remember that we used to, of course, the richer kids would get good food, but it was all proper. If you notice, 60 Minute, it came on 60 Minute, different carriers in India, in Mumbai. There were hundreds and thousands of them going to offices and schools, but they did not make a mistake of a single tiffin. So what was meant for you got to you. But even then, when I opened my tiffin, it was just simple food. The rich kid was there. He would say, why didn't you eat a little bit of mine? Mm-hmm. So it was always give and take that the way I grew up. So it was happier times, but having a lot.
Yeah, I told you that my son spent 2 months in India flew into Mumbai as part of his 14-month excursion walkabout throughout Southeast Asia. And he said that time he felt the healthiest of his whole trip because he has Crohn's. And when he went there, he had no intestinal issues whatsoever just because all the food was so homemade. And then the other thing that, like you just talked about, the people were so hospitable. Everybody took him in. It was like just one of the family. There were many times where he'd have a tuk driver take him somewhere and they would invite him over and he'd go eat meal with the whole family. Everybody, grandparents, the grandkids, the whole family. And he said they just welcomed in and he would spend hours with them.
That's exactly what I spent but only thing was this was 50s and 60s. It's not really a developed, it was a developing country, not even a developing country at that time. It was a third world country. Mm-hmm. Things are different. Yeah. So, and my earliest memories of the power of helping, I think you asked me that question on one of those things, was that I was a scout when I was young. We have always told our motto is be prepared and do a good turn every day. That was in the back of my mind each day. Did I do my, of course, stuck in your brain. Did I do my good turn? Heavy monsoons in India, the rain and the system is not equipped. You get a lot of flooding, flash flooding. You take people around and help them to cross the roads, things like that. But then what really happened was that in the scout, our scoutmaster also had a business, a tourism. So he wanted sort of cheap labor, not even labor, because he said, you guys are young, you want to come and be helpers. So sure, because you're getting free, and we are going to see all of India. The hill stations that the British used to call Missouri and Darjeeling and Kashmir. So we used to go on these trips. That is the first time I realized how much you can do for other older people, ladies, the baggages, and carry the baggages, serve food, because I remember serving them.
Mhm.
And that made a impression on my mind. Scouts, and we have called the Lala tours.
Okay.
So that was interesting.
Yeah. So how did that influence it? Because I'd love to say that it's like that with everybody here in the States, but I'm sure you've been here long enough to know that it's not like that. There is a nice pocket of it, but it sounds like that's very cultural to India, and everybody is caring for everybody else. It seems like it's ingrained in the culture.
It's not so right now, because we have. I mean, your son is lucky to be in a situation where they were. But if you a metropolitan city like Delhi or Mumbai, in the heart of the city, no, it's dog eat dog world. So it is not the same. But in the villages, you still get this. I spent almost 15 days once in nature, right in the most remotest village in the south, with the most hospitable environment I had, at that time. It is now about 10 years back, 8 years back. So my point is that, yes, it is cultural also, but you have it over here too. But small town Gadsden, Alabama, and live in Atlanta because of my children.
Yeah.
Doing telemedicine.
Okay.
So it is different, but my clinics were there in Alabama. And I see the difference in Atlanta as opposed to my small town Gadsden. So there's always a difference in a larger city. And I don't blame, because people are so preoccupied in work that they don't have time for you.
So how long were you in India? When did you come to the States?
See, I spent 11 years in the Middle East, in Bahrain, with the American University of Beirut. And that was a time when, up till that time, medical school was also vegetarian. So dairy was there, but not bad. When the moment I went to the Middle East, finished. My diet was berserk. I meat and eggs and kebabs, what have you. And imagine, it's a very hot country. So people don't work in the afternoons. So we start at 8 and finish at 1. Then we have a siesta for 4 or 5 hours. And then we get up and do more socializing. Go to clubs and drink, smoke cigars and all that. So the whole idea was, that was eating my body up. I was realizing, because whatever happens to your body when you get a heart attack, 55, 65, this is started at the age of 20 and 15. It manifests later on. So when you don't realize, you don't care about it. So I was there for 11 years. And then I moved over we opened the first medical school. I still have people from here in the States, Dr. Roy Davidson in Florida. These were all my colleagues who were in Bahrain. And they were the people who said, why don't you come to America? So I said, okay, give it a try. And there I was, as a young doctor. Not as a young doctor, because I'd spent 11 years. So I came pretty late, at the age of 40, to this country. So I had a lot of catching up to do. So I had to work long, hard hours, paying very little attention to my health. And that is again with the hospital. You know what?
Yeah.
And so if you had that kind of food, obviously you are again eating indiscriminately, whatever is in front of you. At one time, they called me a seafood eater because I ate everything in sight.
Yeah.
I ate that kind of food, And when I was not working hard or eating, I was lying on the couch and exercise hand muscles to to use a remote, changing the TV channels.
Yeah.
And my family history is bad, Pete. My brother died at the age of 52 of a stroke. My mother and sister succumbed to heart disease at the age of 69. And I have what is called as a WPW syndrome. You must be aware of it, but a lot of your listeners will not be. It sounds like a horror movie, but it's Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, where you have an accessory pathway in your heart, which can cause rapid heartbeats at times. And lately, in the news, everybody is going around talking about it. LP little a. But it's like your bad cholesterol, LDL. But it is kind of has Velcro. So it attaches to the coronary arteries prematurely, causing premature heart disease. That's the reason I got it at the age of 56. It tested me at that time. Nobody knew about it.
Yeah. And then you had a bypass, what was it, 62? 61. Okay.
But I had stents at the age of 56.
Okay.
All these things happening that I told you right now.
Yeah.
Not exercise anymore. I also had a type A personality.
Yeah.
So it was either my way or the highway. And then this kind of led on to, I wasn't really surprised that heart disease came knocking.
Yeah.
Not knowing even LP little. But my coronaries were so thick, Pete. They had to use a diamond shaped drill to shave the plaques. And in doing so, I had my first encounter with death because I got a cardiac arrest. And they had to stop me, defibrillate me to get me going again. But heart disease is the leading cause of that, make no mistake, because that cardiologist, I write in my book, that cardiologist who saved my life that day.
Yeah.
2 years after that, he died on a treadmill. A massive heart attack at the age of 46. When I came to this country, I rarely saw anybody having diabetes or heart disease or stroke before the age of 55, 60. Now, 28 years old, 30 years, there's something going wrong. And that is why I say this with compassion. Guys, older guys, look after yourselves. If you don't, you can't take care. You can't be a caregiver.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that message. You know, I think I told you in December when I was home with my parents, my father went into the hospital. He thought it was pneumonia, but it was AFib, congestive heart failure. So he's currently wearing a life vest to defibrillate him at any moment. He's been wearing it since Christmas Eve, and he can't wait to get this thing off. But it's been a challenge. Luckily, his AFib's under control, and he's getting stronger in the process. But while he was in the hospital, he was home for a few days, and then he went back in, and his brother passed away of a massive heart attack on New Year's Day in the same hospital my dad was in. And so it's so unfortunate that this is happening. And my dad looks at it, and even though he hates this vest, it's keeping him alive. It's one of those things that will be there for him. But he can't wait to get it off. But it's just that heart disease, it's so rampant.
But you see, the point I always make to people is, and having experienced myself, that heart disease is the leading cause of death and number one killer. But the leading cause of heart disease is our food.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about ultra-processed foods and high in caloric and dense foods as opposed to nutrient-dense foods. And we are making mass salt and sugar. 16 teaspoonful of average American takes 0.5 grams. It's a killer.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to kind of rein this back to caregiving. How were you as a patient as you were going through all those heart disease?
I think I owe a lot to my wife. Maybe other people are more resilient than I am, but I had completely we have a hard day in the family. She was expecting it. But having that, I thought that I've come late to this country. Now what? So I immediately sold off my assets and thinking that now it's all over. And I talked to people that between getting stents and heart surgery were the 5 most horrendous years, except for what has happened recently, which we will talk about. But those are the horrendous years because not very many people realize this, that when you have an intense health event, can be followed by isolation, loneliness, and detection. And to me, that was so overbearing that I used to sit for hours looking into nothingness, night sweats, horrible dreams. And at one time, I almost thought of taking my life. 5 years. 10 months. But what got me through is my better half. She had that faith and she just said, you've got to, okay, there's nothing wrong. Medical science, your lifestyle changing is going to get you through. And she was very supportive. She was not judgmental. She let me talk. And now I apologize to her, but she let me talk. So those were the difficult period of my time. So I always tell people this: adversity can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It was my worst enemy in those 5 years. But the moment I came over and the stents failed, I had to bypass surgery now. Then I was taken in. I told the nurses I'm going to do a half marathon in a year's time if all went well. And they sort of, what's going on? They thought it was probably the anesthesia infusion talking, humored me, and they said, yeah, I'm sure I'm going to. But and to this day, Pete, I don't know why I said that. Looking back, I believe I had only 2 choices left now. Either to continue that horrific end of life journey that I was going through, not changing my lifestyle even after the stents. Because why did I not change? Because the thing was that I was a doctor. I was supposed to treat patients, not become one. So that got me withdrawn from life. So when so that was the reason I wanted to now live a life, passion, and purpose. So that is the reason that I talked to the nurses. And to keep up the promise, I had to do it. I had to start. I was not even done 1 kilometer till the age of 61. Boy, I was a cricketer. I don't know if you know cricket. Well, I used to play cricket, but other than that, I'd not even done 1 kilometer. But here is what I would like to tell you, Pete, that as soon as I started running, there's something in it. Made me very joyful. And the more I got that, and to me, I coined the word meditation in motion. So to me, the smell of flowers, the birds chirping, the branches and all that. So when you ask me why this endurance sport, is because I enjoyed going further and further and further. That's the reason I chose this endurance sport. And then I easily get bored with one. So from marathons, I went to triathlons, and to 100-mile bike rides. And then started doing bungee jumping, doing mountain climbing, Kilimanjaro. 1 year after my heart, I did Mount Kailash in China. But there's so much of similarity, and now I realize. So that 5 years was the worst moments. And then came 7 months back, what happened to me. I had never thought of it, but here was a very close family member, I'll just leave it at that, was I distinctly remember I was sitting exactly in the same place as I am now. And she was in the radiology department. The radiologist was excellent. And she had just gone because they told her it was just a fibroadenoma or some little this thing, so don't worry about it, just get a thing. So she was getting a routine mammogram. And the radiologist was so kind, called her and says, you please go to the oncologist immediately. And she was in tears when she talked to my son, who's a doctor. My son called me. Finished. So the first thing is in a matter of caregiving is first you start wondering why. And your mind goes at 100 miles. Did she do something wrong? Did she do that? Did I do something? Did I not do it? Did I not catch? Why would my son? We are doctors. What happened? The why was the worst period. Again, the same thing, horrible dreams. Then comes what? What gets you to a little right place? Because now you want to do it, you're accepted it and you want to do it. So what is very important? And then slowly I started understanding. It was my fault or my shortcoming that I did not want to face her suffering. So each time I met, I immediately did all the physical things I'm supposed to do, walk away. Held hands and good approach. Not that I didn't want to, I could not face her suffering. But all in all, she taught me a lot of things. And I say this not because it is so hard on you looking after your parents and living in one state and going to another. Or for a young parent, having a toddler or a young child, say having a brain tumor. This is, in my mind, at least, it is doing it for somebody and they're expecting you to do it. For me, it was different because you was an adult, 40 plus, and the guilt on the face. Then why would a 70 plus old person be looking after me when I should be doing that? So it becomes, in my mind, a reverse in caregiving. And that's why I bring the point that you have to have self-care. Maintain and do this. When I say self-care, I don't mean physical self-care. Emotional.
Yeah.
And she taught me a lot of things. I became a better person. I became more compassionate. So at times as a doctor, I would be at the airport and look at massive obese people and say, oh my God, what must they be eating? Now I don't. I'm not in their shoes. I don't. Why it has happened to them? I've become more of a listener to my patients. Not that I was never bad in my professional life. In my family, my relationship with my wife was always good. But it has even become better. I'm beginning to understand her more. So, to me, it is a challenge, but you should try and look at not the end result, because it's empty, but you should look at how much you achieved. That is important. And that is what we are going to do. And then the most important thing is, I don't know if others have faced this. A lot of people may have, they have not be talking about it. So she had to go to chemotherapy, right? Now, I read up everything about the side effects of chemotherapy. Now, and you're waiting for the side effects so that you can handle it. But what happens when she has unexpected side effects? Now, you know how to handle this. So unexpected side effects in radiation, unexpected side effects in chemotherapy, unexpected side effects during the medication she's taking, and all that makes you wonder.
Mhm.
And again, then we have the 12-year-old also to look after. That's important. That becomes an extra challenge with that. And she would be part of the time she was at our house, but now she wants to be on her own because she doesn't want to burden us.
Mhm.
So, so that's my point that but I always feel that even in painful situation, you see, always find a purpose,
Mhm.
pain, and that,
Yeah, that's so important. I think, I'm going to jump all the way back to when you were in that 5 years. One, you said it took your wife to help get you out of that, because it's so easy to sit in our head. And anybody who's done any endurance events, those middle long miles where you're all alone and all you're doing is in your head, I've quit so many races midway because in my head, I've quit because I can't do this. What's the point? Why am I doing this? But it takes purpose. So she had to remind you of purpose and what you can accomplish. And the second you can grab a hold of that person who's going through something, it's amazing how that changes it. And then for you, again, telling those nurses that you were going to do a marathon, it put it on the table and it said, it's going to happen. So that gave you that purpose and to move forward. It's hard sometimes. And I said, that's why that support network of having people around you to nudge you, because I appreciate you sharing that story that, you got to the point where you were so low. There's so many people that are in that position and they think there's nothing I can do. This is useless. And it takes somebody, a word, a hug, a look, just something to get them to come out of that. And the same thing, again, I'm going to go back to endurance racing. All it took was somebody coming up and having a conversation and helping me remind them or them remind me to say, look, this is why we're doing this. And so I think in caregiving, it is the true ultimate. It's the ultimate endurance event. We don't know when the end is. Same thing for as you're caring for someone as they're going through cancer and you're trying to figure things out right now. We have to be adaptable, flexible, know our role, our purpose, and just walk alongside them, allow them to do, I can't run their race, you can't run their race, but at least we can run it together and just be there next to them. It's amazing that, call it parallel play, call it whatever you want, just being right next to them. It's just company without judgment, That's the biggest thing.
absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. Without judgment. And number two is coming back to the India thing. You see, over here, you have all the comforts. But what people lack over here is company.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't have that kind of a big family. We have people over there dying of cancer or on the ground. But they've got a smile on the face because they're surrounded by 15 people.
Yeah.
Loneliness in dying is a very sad thing. I had one patient way back, about 15 years back. We had to actually allow him to get his parrot. He had an amputation of his legs, diabetic, severe diabetes. So we had to allow because he had no family member. So that kind of a thing is there. Now, of course, you do have people, synagogues, churches, people can get together. Generally speaking, it is not really cohesive in a way that you have here.
Yeah.
Or some Eastern countries.
Yeah, I'm hoping that things are going to improve. Unfortunately, as I think we've talked before, the few times that we did talk, the system's not going to save anybody anymore. I think it's going to come down to grassroots, where it's going to be in the community, trying to help out, to help people. Again, there's support groups out there, but it's hard to connect to some of them sometimes. And loneliness is a big problem. I've been a home care physical therapist for a long time. And I've gone into people's homes where their only interaction is us coming in twice a week. And they have family, but the family's distant for whatever reason. They're not having conversations with them, or they passed away. Maybe they are alone, but it's a shame to see that, because that doesn't help health. As you know, that there's probably research out there that shows how much loneliness takes off of people's lives. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but I know that it's definitely there, because you start to lose hope, and it's just a shame. And that's why I know there's ways that we can change that. And can't change overnight, but I know we can change that.
Sure, but I'll give you an example, Pete. I looked after my father. My father was in India. When my mother died, we had to bring him away because my sister was here. Sister died, of course. My one brother is here. So we had to bring him to America. Now, apparently we were taking turns. 3 months in my house, 3 months in the house. This is exactly what I'm telling you.
Mhm.
We were not ready to say, okay, you stay with us for good.
Mhm.
So we used to have turns.
Mhm.
My father had Alzheimer's. So even a bigger challenge. The point is that he spoke no English. So when you take him for any place, even in the last, when the people said you have to put him in a nursing home, he was very lonely.
Yeah.
Because he could not talk to the people. And that was very sad.
Well,
To go over there and sit long hours talking to him, but I had work to do.
mhm.
So my point is that I looked after him, but you always have one thing, no matter how well you looked after your parents, once they die, you always have guilt feelings that you could have something more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard. It is hard to do that. I think we make, I won't call them excuses, but we have things that are going on in our lives, and until after that fact, then, there's a Dr. Seuss quote, is that you never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. And that's so true. And I try to remind myself of that on a daily basis. All those times that I say, well, I can't do that now, or I can't call that person or spend time. It's amazing how that kind of just reframes things a little bit. It's like, let's value what we have. If anything, COVID should have shook us up a little bit during that time when we were all isolated from everybody else. And we'll see what that effect is for us long term to our health as we were isolated. And yes, we have Zoom, and we can have some good things came out of it, FaceTime and all those things where we can actually see people, but it's not the same. It's not the same as actually that in the same room, that emotional connection.
Also, in school children that I didn't
Yeah.
want, and they're not getting the meals to school. And so they were home, and the parents were working or some doing the work out, and they were not used to cooking for the children. So these children just went around and started eating all these fast foods,
Mm-hmm.
chips, this and candies. So obesity rate started rising in that period. So COVID has good moments too.
Yeah.
COVID personally had a good moment because I had time to write my book.
Yeah.
So that was the only time that I had when I was doing nothing. And for listeners, I would just say, please, uh, if nothing else, get your vitamin D checked. Even if carnivore, core carnivore, get your vitamin, because vitamin D is lacking. When I was 3 months without any sunlight, my vitamin D level was 3.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, I'm okay. I believe in what you say. There are good things that came out of COVID.
Yeah, I think so. Again, we talked about suffering, is that we can continue to suffer, or we can look, or what can we learn out of this? So what are those things that we can take away to move forward out of those difficult miles? I think you said it very early on, adversity. we can grow from that adversity. It'll make us better. So I have a question for you then, as far as what advice do you have? You talked about that guilt, that caregiver guilt is what it is. How have you been able to work through that, if you have been able to?
Yeah, you see, it takes time, because the point is that for the first few years, I was feeling really bad after my father died. And so then I started rationalizing things. Was it possible for me at that time to do it? Was I not doing enough? Was he happy? Was he feeling okay with my presence? If I'd left him back in India, there would be nobody to look after him. So, and I would not be having a control over him, in the sense that what is happening to him. It would be just people telling me, oh, your dad's here and we are doing this, we are doing that. So they're overseeing. Now, regarding the guilt feeling, I don't have with my daughter anymore, because it's a long-term thing. And I've already got my mindset that I will see to it that as much as I can, I will support her through this journey. She's learning the plant-based food I'm making. She's learning how to do that. She she was a vegetarian anyway, but now we plant-based whole food, and we are going through this thing together. But remember one thing, there is a lot of collateral damage with things, radiation and chemotherapy. And those cells they're very smart. They can either go one way or the other way. So this is the time where I have my 6 principles of 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine that should be incorporated with every caretaker. And that is starting from nutrition. Because what happens to a caretaker when it has happened to me? Because when I'm sitting around there waiting for her to get her chemotherapy and sitting around, I'm hungry. And you know what the cafeteria is? Wondering, now what do I do? Just remain hungry and go home? It takes something from there. This is the thing that most caregivers feel this. And jump into comfort foods that they should not. Have a banana, have an apple. So that is what I would take a banana and eat it, but just to keep myself full. But not go into, because I am be all or none. Because if I start, then I go all the way. The comfort food, another thing is, if you are taking care of somebody who is lying in bed and you are sitting on the couch, please don't watch the TV along with that person 8-9 hours. Get up, move. Mobility is so very important. What did they say? Something like lotion is motion for the mind and body.
Yeah, motion is lotion.
Lotion for mind. So you will have to move. And that brings me to the point of motility, that when you do, you at least have, if you are looking for an end result of decreasing your cholesterol or looking after your health as a caretaker, then you have to purposeful act. That means decrease certain things. If you don't have anything, move around, because it increases endorphins, it prevents you from stiffness and all that. But when you have a purposeful activity, you are trying to get your blood pressure down, your cholesterol down, your sugars down. And that is 30 minutes of moderate exercise, at least 5 days a week, making your heart rate go 70 to 80% of your maximum. And I used to tell people that for 30 minutes it should be high. But the recent research is that exocrines have come out, but they say that even during the 30 minutes, 10 minutes of your heart rate is up by 70 to 80%. It's intermittent, raising your heart rate. And then finally, if you are really like you or I or whoever is in our category, and you want to do something more. Then you go into the professional activity. Like Olga was a woman who, at the age of 95, died, but she started her whole professional athletic career at the age of 75, and she won 102 medals.
Oh, wow.
Equal.
Okay. What name?
OLC.
Okay. Okay.
That is performance.
Yeah.
That is something that I am doing, but I'm not doing now endurance too much because I can't. But I am doing. I mean, the day before I did 5 miles hiking. Before that, I did the first 5K with my daughter. So that was great.
Yeah.
And I'm tired now because there's only 2 or 3 people in my age group, so I always get a medal.
That's good. Well, I can tell you that the competition's getting a lot harder as they age. There's more and more people. I think this fitness thing is starting to catch on. And I think people are starting to, I'd see a lot more competition at the 70 to 80-year-old group than the younger group sometimes. I did want to say is that, it's so important as far as exercise. I love that message because I think I hear all the time that caregivers don't have time to exercise and they want to spend quality time with whoever it is they're caring with, and they're watching television. They end up watching a movie or a show. And I've gotten to the point where the home care that I have been doing is telling them when a commercial comes on, they need to just march or kick or do some type of exercise during that 30-second commercial, which ends up being a 3 to 5 minute break. And you can vary that intermittent going faster for 30 seconds, slower for 30 seconds, but working that in throughout the day, because it's amazing what that little bit does to help, again, the endorphins, the enkephalins, getting all this, that little dopamine hit, all those things where you're starting to feel a bit better. And then hopefully it's enough to kind of like that, taking that first step. You got to put your shoes on to be able to get out the door, that they'll feel, wow, this does help me, to where maybe they can then actually separate and go for a walk for 5 minutes or to get out. But it's hard. That mindset stops them from wanting to do anything. And it's a challenge.
See, that is why I say it is mostly a mindset. And I tell people that my mind has taken my body to places that I would never thought it was. And what you said about this commercials coming in, maybe I'll use it in my future talks too. And that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Commercials, 4 minutes or so. Get up. Oh.
Why watch them? And they're going to be pharmaceutical ones anyway. So yeah. So why watch the commercials?
Because I personally believe very strongly, being a researching physician, that as far as possible for chronic diseases, it is far important to prevent and treat the root cause of those diseases, than treat the consequence after it.
Yeah, that's a novel approach. I wish we could, I'm hoping that catches on, because we've been completely reversed, as you know.
Absolutely. And the third thing after the nutrition, and I think very seldom talked about, is sleep. And that is one factor in a caretaker is a thing that I have difficulty even answering, because sleep is not that what we really thought in the olden days was sleep was an absence of wakefulness. Not true. Your brain is an active state of mind. Where it is doing wonderful things, is repairing your tissues, your damaging cells, you're preventing you from cardiovascular disease, immunity, and you require 6 to 7 hours of sleep. 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And persistent getting less than 6 hours can get all your high blood pressure and sugars to go up. Now, how we are going to find that period of time for a caretaker is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
That 6 pillars is the most difficult, not for regular people, but for caretakers, especially who have to be there for the night.
Yeah. That's the challenge. I know when I've mentioned that, when I've done talks, that's usually the big first thing that I get pushed back on. is that's the biggest challenge for people, is finding time to sleep. And they're taking an hour here and an hour there, but it's not a real nice 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And that's part of where my conversation with people is to find family members, friends, paid caregivers. It's important paying for someone to come sleep through the night, which that's hard to grasp that sometimes. You're actually going to pay someone while the person sleeps, but that allows you to sleep. And that's where the true benefit of whatever that cost is. It allows you to get a better night's sleep, because then you're better during the day. You know, it's hard to be good for anybody when your cup is empty. That is such a challenge.
Because most caretakers feel so guilty leaving the person they're taking care of, that they don't want to. That's the biggest mistake they make. But you have time for yourself. You got to delegate somebody else to come in, and you have to take short periods out of this whole situation to clear up your mind. Even if you're not used to meditating, just sitting 5 minutes doing nothing.
Yeah.
The music or something, it could help you, It is a big issue.
And I'm going to actually talk to you about that. I want you to touch on that a little bit more, is the meditation. Because I know you do meditation, and you also turning our phones off. We could probably spend hours on the benefits of not using our cell phones. But what are those things that you do to allow yourself to recharge?
See, I'm a work in progress. So I am not reached anywhere to that level. But I am trying very hard to at least do my morning meditation for about 15 minutes. I can't do it in the evenings for some reason. I do it, but mornings I do make it a point. I also help. You're in Atlanta, who has known my case and is helping me to meditate. So I am 7 o'clock to 7:20, 3 times a week. I do with her. The rest of the time I sit on my own. A lot of people give up meditation because they feel, oh, their thoughts. They can't do it. But that's natural. You don't have to say, oh my God, why is this thought coming in? Let the thought come in. Just concentrate on your breathing. Just concentrate on something. Put an apple or put anything in front of you. Just look at that. Concentrate on your breathing. It takes time, but sooner you will find out that you are getting better. My wife was much better at this than I am, because you would do initially when I got my heart problems, she would be in 2 minutes in a zone that I did not know. But in those 2, she walked out. Well, I thought, what is happening? I'm at all getting any benefit out of this. So that's one thing. Number 2 is, we always say that the stretching part of it. You see, when we talk even about exercise, I want to make it very clear that, you have to do more. Endurance is one. Dancing, walking, biking, whatever. But muscle strength, older caregivers do lose muscle mass. And after protein powders, all you have to do is muscle strengthening exercises. And even in a shower, you won't push. There's so many things that you can do. Balance, for example. Most of the hip fractures are due to the balance loss. And balance is something which one of my patients told me is, Lord, you can tie your shoelaces standing up. You're okay. Your balance is fine. So that and door walking. And finally stretching. And I found no better exercise for other people may have than the sun salutation. Surya Namaskar. It involves every listing of your body. And I've given this on YouTube. Surya Namaskar for older people.
Okay.
That is something that I would like people to continue, is just doing that 30 minutes of exercise and finishing it off. And so when we talk about it's, I got carried away. You asked me a question, and did you remember what you asked me the last question?
Uh,
Eh, Anyway, but
yeah.
the fourth thing, the fourth pillar is stress. Then we are talking
Yeah.
about right now.
Yeah.
See, I always tell people a certain amount of stress is necessary when you're going to give your exams, going for an interview. That's fine. Acute stress for a certain time is okay. Somebody's snatching your part or some system. But it's a chronic thing.
Yeah.
When your blood pressure goes up, your risk goes up. On a chronic basis, when your cortisol levels go up high, then you start eating more, then you get sugars high and blood pressure high and whatnot. These are, and what are the four most important causes of somebody having stress? The most, but
Yeah.
most are the 4 Ds. You divorce, death, disease, death. When you owe money to people.
Yeah.
These are the four things that causes, and somehow you have to take meditation, psychotherapy, what have you, and eventually even medication. I'm not intense. So if everything you've done is fail. But we have to understand that that is an important thing. And then, of course, as we talked about abusive substances, if finally there are caretakers, I've seen caretakers in my patients who will go on stimulant drugs. Because, so your amphetamines, they will take. Some people go on chain smoking. Some people just for their relaxation, hit the bottle. So all these abusive substances comes into play. And finally, to have a support system, make a support system. The blue zones. Well,
Yes, I have. Yeah. It's amazing.
India is one of those around here in our country.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
these people, they eat up to 80% when they are full. They chew the food for 30 seconds each morsel, and they are active from morning till evening, doing the other, and they do things together without being what you mentioned earlier, judgmental.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can shift in those. To join something, even the caretakers, they should realize, okay, my free day today, let me join some. I just joined Atlanta Outdoor Club, AOC, when they go for hikes, and it doesn't cost a penny.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I think there's a lot of support groups out there, and I think it's important to connect. One of the things that I've found, is again, as I'm talking to people about this, there's so many people out there that don't think they're a caregiver. And in my opinion, if you provide any level of physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual support to someone, and I don't care how little that is, you are a caregiver. And so the only way that we're going to overcome this caregiving stress and burnout is we need 100% participation. It doesn't need to be for 10 hours a day. It can be for 5 minutes a day. It can be calling somebody, texting somebody, praying with somebody, walking with somebody. All it takes is everybody to realize that we have a component in this, and that, again, it's listening, and that judgment word is the big one. And also expectation is another big word, that people are expecting things and they basically over expect from a lot of people. And then when even 5 minutes isn't enough because they wanted a half an hour, so it's trying to get everybody to reframe it that I'll take 2 minutes of your time and just to listen to me. Again, just to walk with me. Let me vent, and then you get that out, and then let's do something physical. Let's do something meditation. Let's do prayer. Let's do something that's going to allow us to let that blood pressure settle and how much better, and fill that cup up, because caregivers need to be celebrated, because they need as I said, they need a finish line. Just like we have a finish line, they need to be celebrated because of the work that they've done.
Very many people are now having Alzheimer's, and the initial of Alzheimer's is especially agitated dementia.
Yeah.
They may talk back to you, and you can get caught into it.
Yeah.
Answering, why? What? Not realizing that this is not the person. This is his Alzheimer's talk. So I think people should be cognizant, because it has happened to me. Initially, I could not understand my father, because my father was very, very nice person overall. Suddenly, when he changed, I said, what the hell is going on, But then he realized that this is not him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that reminder. Right? It's a challenge, is reminding that it's not that person. It's not the person that you knew before. It's still them physically, but it's not them mentally, emotionally. They're different, and you have to try to find a way to separate that, which is it's hard when it's a loved one. There's no harder position. I'm not going to say that, but it's finding a way to where that's where you need support. Support has to come in, because you can't do that all the time, and you can only put up your guard so much, and then it starts to affect you.
Absolutely. I personally believe also very strongly that people should realize that end game, don't know when it is going to end. Everybody, for example, you set a goal in such a way that it is going to be onwards, no matter how long it takes. But we are going to be for the family member that I talked about. I'm going to be there. Now, am I going to live in her life because she doesn't want that?
Yeah.
I don't want to live and be on her face all the time. Because she's a young woman, she wants her own life. That's fine. So I have drawn the boundaries. She has to draw. And I should not feel bad. Because sometimes I don't love them. Okay, I'm coming over. Yes.
Yeah.
That is very important. People don't realize that. I don't.
Yeah. So that comes from being open and honest, and actually having a discussion, because I've seen too many relationships get ruined because there is not that openness. So yeah, that is incredible. Again, you and your daughter have to have that conversation. And I think by having those boundaries set up, again, they can move, but at least having a discussion on it is so much better. I call it a training plan. Let's have a training plan of how we're going to handle this caregiving situation, and we can modify it in 2 months if things change. But right now, this is how we need to happen. And if everybody knows the rules, and it's so much less stressful.
And another thing is that, like in endurance athletes, we have that training behaviors.
Yep.
And one more thing is, if there are several people, caregivers, we should make an understanding amongst what each person's responsibility is. So tap on the others, what you know. That is sometimes, or make it clear. You say one thing, I say another thing, this one says, no, you all come together. Why I say this is because when my mother died, she was in the hospital for 40 days in Mumbai. And I wanted to end everything because she was not going to. But my brother said, no, everything has to be done. So when you have that kind of a situation with my brother.
Yeah.
And so as we are almost ending, you question to me in your brief digits, and to give your younger self one piece of advice. I was younger.
Yeah.
Part of it, and I wrote to myself that take care of yourself first so that you can take care of others. Number one. Number two, health is a privilege. Endurance is a mindset. And caregiving is an act of love. But none of them should come at a cost of your well-being.
I love that.
And my legacy will always be, if I can go from bypass to marathons, from patient to caregiver, from surviving to thriving, so can you. You're never too old, too sick, or too late to make a healthy lifestyle change. And age is not a limiting factor, old or young, for somebody to make a lifestyle change. So start now so that your future self can thank you.
I thank you. I thank you for that, Akil. How can people follow you or connect with you?
I just sent you an email a while back, an hour back. I sent you. My book is available on Amazon, and all the profits of the book are going to charity. PETA, which is my wife's charity, and mine is in Jude's. So, I would like people to read this book, not so much for my bravo or whatever. No, to learn from my mistakes. That is very important. And then I also have, every Friday, I give talks on chronic disease. So I do that. I'm not monetizing anything. So I'm doing it because I want it to be my legacy, that I could help people now. So every Friday I have that. Now I've taken something else which I'm really good at. Cook with the dog.
Okay.
One Friday a month I'm doing this. I go around to a place, shop, and somebody is videoing me, and then I come home and I cook. Now the first two are already out in the open, but please bear with me. I'm making a lot of mistakes. I backed myself to the camera. I will bring drop things on the desk. If you're looking for a gourmet meal, don't go on. Then go watch that and critique it. Tell me you're a dumbass. I mean, I can understand that I'm willing to. So I've done that too. And hopefully somebody wants to do docu-story on me. So that is in the works. Wants me to have a complete docu-story on my life. So that's in the works. But I'm so happy being with you, Pete. This is like the very first time that I'm opening up, and I'm happy that I got somebody who understands and is dealing with it in a different way. I'm dealing also as a caregiver. Both of us are caregivers. Yeah. Different ways. But I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I will go ahead and put all those contacts in the show notes that you sent me. And yeah, I'm gonna say I listened to your book, so it was on Audible. So you, I feel like I knew you. I knew you already because you were in the car with me, traveling around all over the East Coast. So I appreciate that time, and I thank you for your time joining me today, Akil. It was wonderful.
Lovely. Take care.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. That was awesome.
Take care, my friend.
Okay, take care. It'll be about a week or so.
If you ever need me for anything, please don't hesitate.
Okay, I will. Thank you, and I'll send you some of my stuff because I'm actually helping people navigate the healthcare. What we talked about, making sure everybody's on the same page and make sure we play up to people's strengths. So I'll send you my stuff, and you can share it if you don't mind. I appreciate that.
Sure. And when you get your recording done, please let us know so that we can put it on our listing also. So
I will. Yeah, give me about a week, and then I'll get it out there. Okay.
We're not in a hurry.
Okay. Thank you. You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.